The morning started out like any other, except, for the 3 cop cars parked out front, lights spinning through the fog, thick enough to chew. Before I even made it to my half-built cabin, or caught a glimpse of the lake glinting behind the trees, I was staring down a scene that looked ripped straight out of a bad TV drama. Tires crunching, sirens echoing off the water, not exactly the peaceful country living I'd signed up for. There I was, hammer still in hand, trying to piece together what the hell was happening when Brenda Harrington, president of the Maplewood Estates HOA and reigning busybody of the neighborhood, marched up behind the officers. She had this look on her face like Christmas came early. "That's him," she shouted, jabbing her finger my way. "He's squatting, building illegally on protected HOA land." She said it like she'd just discovered Bigfoot and I was dumb enough to camp in the open. I put my hammer down, real slow, heart thumping, doing my best to look harmless. Wouldn't want to give anyone a reason to tackle me. The lead cop, big guy with gray streaking his hair and a patience I envied, asked for my ID and permits. Lucky for me, after weeks of Brenda's nonsense, I'd learned to keep my paperwork tucked in my back pocket at all times. Before I could hand them over, Brenda cut in, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Don't let him confuse you. Maplewood Estates owns all the lakefront here. He's trespassing." But the officer just raised a hand, calm as a lake at sunrise. "Ma'am, let me look at the documents." He started flipping through my folder, deed survey, water rights, all of it, and with every page I saw his eyebrows climbing a little higher. Brenda, arms folded, looked sure she was about to watch me get hauled off in cuffs. But rewind a few months and none of this drama even existed. Back then, all I wanted was to build a cabin on the 20 acres my grandfather left me, prime, lakefront, untouched since the 1950s. No HOA, no endless rules, just trees, water, and enough peace and quiet to hear yourself think. After years working as a software engineer in the city, I was desperate for something simple. A tiny off-grid place, solar panels, a deck facing the lake, and a dock for my boat. The next property over, though, was Maplewood Estates, all perfect lawns, golf carts, and a homeowners association run by folks who treat rules like gospel. It only took 2 days for the trouble to start. I was marking out my foundation when a golf cart tore down the dirt path, spraying gravel everywhere. Brenda jumped out like she was chasing down a criminal. "What do you think you're doing?" she snapped. "Building a cabin," I said, "on my land." She laughed. Not just a chuckle, but one of those big, mean laughs. "This is HOA property. You can't build anything without board approval." I told her she was wrong. She said she'd see to it I was shut down. From then on, she made it her mission to prove that her HOA's authority mattered more than any property law. So when the cops rolled up that morning, this wasn't about rules, it was about control. And Brenda, she was about to lose hers. Officer Davidson found out. His name later finally looked up from my paperwork, giving me this almost impressed nod. He turned to Brenda, who was already shaking her head in disbelief. "Ma'am, according to these records, this property does not belong to Maplewood Estates. It belongs to him." The silence that followed was thick enough to walk on. Brenda didn't even blink. "That's impossible. The HOA owns all lake access. We've used that beach for 20 years. Davidson replied, "Using something doesn't mean you own it." I spread my survey map out on the hood of his cruiser. My grandfather bought this land in 1952. I explained, tracing the boundary lines. That includes the beach, the trail, the boat launch your residents use. Brenda's face lost all color. One officer whistled low. The rookie tried not to laugh. "But we maintained that beach," Brenda insisted. "We paid for sand picnic tables. On my property, I cut in without permission. That's trespassing and vandalism, technically." Officer Davidson handed my documents back and asked, "Sir, would you like to press charges? This appears to be an ongoing issue." Brenda's jaw practically hit the ground. "Not today," I said, "but I will be putting up boundary markers and no trespassing signs. Next time I'll be pressing charges." "You can't do this," Brenda yelled, panic finally breaking through. "Our property values depend on that beach." I shrugged. "Maybe you should have checked the deeds before making those claims." The cops gave Brenda a warning for filing a false police report and left. She just stood there clutching her clipboard like it could save her. That evening, news spread through Maplewood Estates faster than a brush fire. My phone rang off the hook. Board members, neighbors, suddenly everyone wanted to talk, shared access to the lake. By sunset, I'd gone from the strange guy building a cabin to the secret land baron nobody saw coming. The next morning I was sipping my coffee when a whole crowd showed up at my site. No yelling, just lots of nervous smiles. A guy in khakis stepped forward. Jack Sullivan, HOA vice president. We'd like to talk. I told him, there's nothing to discuss. This is my land. Jack sighed and shot a look at Brenda, who for once was quiet. We understand now, he said. That emergency board meeting didn't go well for her. Turns out Brenda had never bothered checking the property records. She just assumed the HOA owned it because they'd always used it. The board voted to remove her as president unanimous, except for Brenda herself. 3 days later, I started putting up a fence. Not to be spiteful, just to make things crystal clear. And that's when Brenda made her grand exit. At 2 in the morning, my trail camera caught her trying to pull up my fence post with her Mercedes. She managed to drag 50 feet of fencing before the car bottomed out in a ditch. That time, I pressed charges. The judge was not amused. Trespassing, vandalism, destruction of property. Brenda got hit with $12,000 in fines, restitution, community service, and a restraining order. When the judge asked what she was thinking, Brenda muttered, I was protecting the community. The judge just looked her dead in the eye. No, ma'am. You were protecting your ego. Funny thing is, I used to believe rules were meant to keep the peace. Turns out put those rules in the wrong hands and they become weapons for people hungry for a little power. There's something bitter about seeing someone twist community until it's just another way to boss people around. What I learned the hard way is that the law doesn't care about tradition, only about what's right. Justice showed up eventually. Sometimes karma takes its sweet time, but when it arrives, you'll know. Watching Brenda leave that courtroom, no clipboard, no audience, just reality, was a sight I won't soon forget. It wasn't revenge exactly, it was more like a sigh of relief. The line was drawn finally and everyone could see it. Now let me ask you, did I do the right thing? Should the law always win out over tradition, even if it leaves people feeling cheated? Or does community mean more than paperwork? In the end, I'd honestly love to hear where you stand, or maybe you've had your own run-in with an HOA or neighbor. Drop a comment, share your story, or just weigh in on what you think real justice looks like. Because out here, sometimes the only way to protect what's yours is to build the fence yourself.